Hello, so today I'm going to show you how to make a bee, a bit like this one. This is one of our lovely bumblebees. I'm going to show you how to make a white-tailed bumblebee. But before we do that, we need to tell you what list of ingredients you're going to need. So the first thing I recommend you do is you get one of these. And this is a chart of some of our British bees that you might be lucky enough to find in your garden or in a local park. This one's particularly good. It's from the Field Studies Council in conjunction with Bug Life. And I mean, there are quite a few of these charts out there, but we think this is one of the best because it has basically selected the kind of bees you're most likely to encounter. So you want to get yourself a chart and have a good look at it and realise that there are so many different types of bees that we have, not just our honeybee, which you might be familiar with, but obviously all our lovely bumblebees and other solitary bees. So you need to get one of those first of all. Then, to make your bee, you can get either pine cones like this, different shapes and sizes, doesn't really matter, or if you can't get pine cones you can use a blown egg as well, because that makes a nice fat bee shape. Then you'll need some black tissue paper. I'm going to show you how to make a white-tailed bumblebee, so you're going to need strips, quite fine strips of yellow tissue paper like this, and obviously some white tissue paper for her tail. And now I use doilies, which I cut up, like a doily like this, which I cut up to make the wings. They might be difficult to get hold of at the moment, so don't worry, just any sort of slightly stiff lightweight white paper will do, or even tissue paper, white tissue paper again. And you're also going to need some black pipe cleaners, so that's just black pipe cleaners. And I am using this kind of wallpaper paste type glue that we've recommended in the past. This is the cellulose glue. The details of how to get hold of that are on our website. And again, our lovely non-plastic, this potato starch based glue as well. And lastly, you're going to need, and you're not going to be able to see these very well, they're very small, but these are actually yellow split peas with a black felt tip eyeball on them. That's better than buying plastic googly eyes, because as you know, we don't like to use any plastic in our workshops. So if you want to pause the video now and go and get all those different materials, and then come back later and I'll show you how to make a bee. Hello and welcome back. So I'm going to show you how to make this bee using this pine cone. And the first thing you want to do is you want to get your rectangle of black tissue paper and your cellulose glue and cover all your tissue paper with the glue like that. And then essentially you're just going to wrap up your pine cone. So you can start at the corner and you roll it up like that, fold it in a bit, fold that bit in, keep going until you've wrapped up your pine cone, and then basically just squish it all in so it's tightly fitting around that pine cone. So literally you've just covered your pine cone in black tissue, just like that. So you want to put that to one side and let that dry for a minute. You might need a second piece of tissue paper, probably not. Anyway, so once you've got your black tissue paper, pine cone like this, and it's dry, you then want to have a good look at your bee chart. So I'm going to pick my bee chart up, I'm going to have a look. I want to make a white-tailed bumblebee, and she's up here on this side. And as you can see, she's got one yellow stripe near her head, then quite a big black body, then another yellow stripe, then another black bit, and then a white tail. So the key thing to do is to try and replicate those patterns of the bee, because once you've done that, once you've made your bee, if you do see a bee in your garden, you're much more likely to be able to identify it because you've made it already. So I am actually going to start at the tail end with this bumblebee because it's easier to get the gaps right. So I'm going to take the white tail that she's got, and you want to cover, if you're using a pine cone, you want to cover the sort of stem end So, and I'll explain why later. It's easier to put the legs in if you have the tail at the kind of stem end where the pine cone was attached. So you basically, again, take your circle, put on your paste and glue it on. You might again want to use another one because the white's slightly see-through. But it's the great thing about tissue paper, you can't really go wrong with it. You just keep moulding it in till you're happy with it. So there you go, she's got her good white identifying tail. Then, if you look at your picture again, you'll see that there's a bit of a gap before she's got quite a wide yellow band. And so you're going to take your strip of tissue paper, give it a bit of a gap, and then start to wind it round like this. Just keep winding and winding and winding. There you go. There she is. So then you just secure that bit more glue. And then have another look. She's got another quite big gap, and then she's got a thinner yellow band towards her head. So a bit of a gap. I'm going to put this slightly thinner band. And keep winding it round. There. So that's pretty much a good pattern of a white-tailed bumblebee. So she's got yellow stripe, gap, yellow stripe, gap, white tail. So again, put that aside to dry just for a little while. It's easier to do the legs than the rest of it when it's slightly drier. So obviously here's one I made earlier. And now you can start adding the antennae and the legs to give your bee its real character and shape. So the first thing to do is you cut a pipe cleaner in half, like that. Fold it into a V shape. And then you take your pointy end. You might need to make another little hole with, say, I've got a little pointy hole maker here. At her head end, somewhere here, you can feel tissue paper breaks pretty easily. Dip the V in the glue, and then you just, there you go, there's her antennae already. And bees' antennae, if you look at them, they sort of bend outwards a bit like that. So you can see she's already looking a bit bee-like. But as you know, bees have 6 legs. So you take your other half of your pipe cleaner and dip the end in glue, and then you've got 2 legs that sort of come out the front of the bee, and this is where it's good to have the pine cone, because as you'll see, the scales sort of hold the legs in the right place. You just poke them in at the front like that. Then you take another pipe cleaner, cut that in half, and then you just bend a little bit like that at the top, like a little shepherd's crook, because again that's going to hook in there, and then you bend it out a bit and back. That is literally the bee's knees. So you want to do that again on the other side. Bend it out a bit. Then they have one more pipe cleaner, cut that in half. Slightly further back, again have a look at your picture. So you just want to, I might have to make a hole just there. Oops. That's that leg going in, there you go. That's better. Fold it out a bit. And then lastly, another leg on the other side. There. There you go, 6 legs, looking very bee-like. What's she missing though? She needs her wings. And here, as you can see, I've cut 2 wing shapes. Can you see those okay? Out of this doily. As again, tissue paper will be fine, or even just plain white paper. And you just want to dip the end in there, because this is all paper glue, so it all sticks on really easily. Put one wing like that. And then the other wing. Oops, wrong side. Sorry. You put the other wing like that. There you go. So there she's got her wings, but crucially, she's missing her eyeballs, and this is where you need to be quite careful. This is slightly fiddly, but as most of you have got smaller fingers than me, you should be fine. So take slightly stronger glue this time, and then I find it's easier just to kind of sit the eyeball on the glue like that, and then you put it on her. There's one on that side, and then same again. There. Now you've made, look, a little white-tailed bumblebee. Isn't she lovely? So, I also suggest that you could then have a look at your chart and, you know, have a look at all these different bumblebees. There's bumblebees over here. There's lots of more interesting, there's the hairy-footed flower bees over here, red mason bees over here, honey bees. And look, I've made a whole selection of them. So here's obviously our lovely whitetail. I'm going to put her here. But here, now this is an early bumblebee. That's that one over here, because she's got, look, this yellowy orangey tail. Now look at this one. This is splendid. This one, now she's a rather giant buff-tailed bumblebee, because she's got a kind of whitey cream tail. She's a cracker, she is. And then this one over here, that's my common carder bee. He's kind of got brown stripes, slightly different, and a kind of browny yellowy patch on his back. And this one, of course, famous red-tailed bumblebee, easy to identify. Now this one's made from an egg, and the reason he hasn't got legs is slightly more difficult to glue on, but I think they look great anyway. And there's another one, an egg one here, which is the brown banded carder bee. This one here, that's that one, slightly more yellowy browny stripes. And then there's the honey bee, much smaller, and has got orangey brown stripes. The hairy footed flower bee, fabulous, no stripes at all, just all black. And then the little red mason bee, little bee over here with sort of red furry stripes. So here's just some that I've made. So I suggest, why don't you go and you can make a whole colony of different types of bees, and by making them and carefully looking at this and then just copying them with a tissue paper, hopefully it'll help you to identify them. So maybe you can go out in your garden or out in the park and see if you can find them. Thank you.